Ava's back with us, everybody.
Ava's back, running the show.
Welcome back, Ava from Liberty.
And apologies for not having a show earlier. We were subjecting ourselves to the torture of a Dallas Cowboys football game.
Oh, come on, guy.
The
you
end
can't
of the
be that
season.
guy.
It was just a horrendous effort from the Cowboys. And, by the time we left, you asked if I wanted to stop and get any more gear, and I wasn't giving Jerry another dime.
Yeah, you were a little salty, but listen, it was super fun. We got to go to the Dallas Stadium for the first time ever, and what was cool was, I swear, half our flight down there, we're 60, 70% going for the Cowboys game, so people were fired up.
Yeah.
And coming back. And then also on top of that, we got to meet a lot of you folks out there that listened to our show that came up and talked to us.
That's very nice.
On the plane, in the airport, just around Dallas, we ran into people that liked the show. So that was fun to kind of get some interaction and hear from people and shake some hands, and it was fun. It was really fun.
And
that
for
part
those,
was great.
Yeah,
so.
for those of you who are Ranger fans or Cowboy fans, and you have not been to Arlington, you should go. The structure and the layout of not only AT&T Stadium, but the Ranger Stadium, the old Ranger Stadium. I mean, it's amazing to see. And it's like a different world.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
you just see everything that they've done and the kind of strides that they've made. It's unbelievable. So if you get a chance to go do it, the environment is incredible. So that is really cool.
It was super cool. And we got to bring our friends, producer Debbie from Minnesota and her husband Eric. It was really fun. I mean, it was great. I know they didn't come up with a win, guy. Yeah. I know you're still a little salty about it, but
I know.
But it's okay.
Painful.
It was still a lot of fun. So
Yeah,
anyway, let's
good.
talk a little bit about what we got planned for
the
today.
show. Yeah, we'll get the show going here, but it was a little painful in more ways than one, as I took a digger going into the stadium.
We could talk about your fall.
Yeah, we did. It was unbelievable. I almost recovered too in legendary fashion, but it did not happen.
I
But
didn't
anyway,
know
not the point.
if you wanted to talk about it or not.
Oh,
but
yeah. I mean,
literally,
I
I wish I had recorded it because it was.
I know.
Mark hit a curb.
Sorry,
the curb was this high. It was dangerously too high.
Dangerously too high. I appreciate you.
It was too high.
Standing up for me on that one.
Here's the difference between Mark and I. If I had hit that curb with my foot, I just would have gone right down. It just would have been a face plant immediately. Yeah. But not Mark. No. Mark hit it. Sent him flying forward.
Yeah.
Where is like you were a skier or like a high jumper, long jumper. Because then you went on your right leg and then your left leg.
I tried to get it. I tried to pull it back in.
Get your balance, and then you couldn't, and so you rolled.
Yes.
You leaned your shoulder like a stunt double.
Yeah.
And he literally is rolling on the ground. All these people are like, "All right, man, good job. You tried it. You tried to keep it up.
I
We're
know.
Sure, but
it was embarrassing.
It was
fantastic.
actually great. It was a great fall. If you're gonna fall like that. Plus you didn't break a hip, which is what I would.
No. I definitely am used to falling, so it definitely helped. I've fallen a few times in my life, mainly skiing, and so you learn how to turn your shoulder in. But anyway, okay, so let's get to this. It was pretty sad, but I appreciate your support nonetheless.
Oh no, it was great.
All right, we have polling data that we have gotten a hold of that is very valuable that we want to start to show off to share with you. Talking a little bit about why people did what they did in the mayor's election, but more importantly, where the electorate is, I think, in the country as a whole. And I think it's going to be really valuable to know this is very, very good polling data. It's as good as it gets. And this is the kind of stuff that smart people in politics look at. People who don't know politics and just have an opinion or whatever and don't look at actual data, they spout off all the time. You can get those opinions anywhere. We want to make you smarter and give you the very best data that's real. Okay, and I know the pollster who did this. She's the best in the business, and we're going to bring you some of the details on this. And I think it's fascinating. I think it's going to help you understand exactly where the electorate is and exactly where we are. Okay. We'll also do a little bit of mailbag stuff. We're going to talk about the Rob Reiner situation. How sad is that? It's awful. This poor guy. I mean, there's no doubt. And we're going to talk about that whole situation. We're also going to talk about how the Republican Party, I think, is changing here to the point where at one time everybody thought, oh, well, we know what's going to happen in 28. It's going to be J.D. Vance versus whoever the Democrats choose. I don't think that's the case anymore. And I think it's very, very interesting, and it's going to be fascinating. We've got some interesting stuff to tie into that as well. We're also going to show you a soundbite of Erica Kirk just getting like a gotcha question, which I think it was just horrendous. Ford has come out with an announcement on one of their trucks that I think is going to shock no one. And then we're going to end the show with our favorite guy on the show now. Fernando Mendoza,
Okay.
the quarterback for the University of Indiana, who won the Heisman.
You called it. You thought he might win.
I thought he might win, and I'll tell you what, not only did he win, he did not disappoint in his speech.
Oh, it's
so I
very
just want to play a little bit of that speech because I think it's inspiring,
Mm-hmm.
no matter who you are or what background you've got or how old you are. It's really great stuff.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, well,
Yes.
let's dive into a little bit on this poll that
Yeah.
we got our hands on because
Yes.
it's very much more of a deep dive. So the whole point of doing these polls when people are like, polls, they're not that accurate or you can't really read into them. I mean, we hear about that all the time, right? Like, you guys believe in polls too much. Polls are usually wrong. Well, what's your answer to that?
First of all, no, they're not in a lot of cases. First of all, our personal experience with them is if you get the right pollster doing the right polling, it's not wrong. Plus, it is critical. Any good political operation polls a ton, and there are all different sorts of polls. So this poll was designed to figure out where the electorate is after the mayor's race in Albuquerque. But I think it gives you clues on a bunch of other stuff too. And I think nationally, all of this holds true. So when you look at a post-election poll, this can tell you everything you need to know about what campaigns did well, what did they not do well, where was the head of the electorate? Like, we can always be like, what were they thinking? What are they thinking? Everybody wants to know that in Albuquerque now. What is everybody thinking that voted for Tim Keller again or whatever, right? They're all mad about that, right?
And again, the comments that we're getting is, the Republicans just didn't show up, or there wasn't enough Republicans, or the party didn't do enough, or everybody kind of wants to do the name thing, right?
Yeah, no, and that's not the case. I mean, you can always turn out more of your voters, which is what everybody should strive to do. But some of this stuff is amazing because let's take a look at this first graphic. First of all, from the people who voted, okay, these are everyone in this poll voted, okay? The majority of them said we're on the wrong track. The majority of them said, wait a minute, we're on the wrong track in the city of Albuquerque, but yet the guy who puts you on that track wins. And he wins by a big number, okay? And so you say, oh my goodness, you only have 41% that said we're on the right direction, 50% said wrong track, but yet Tim Keller wins. So you kind of go, what in the world? How could that happen? Okay, let's just set that aside. So here is a look at the issues that were most important to people. Again, if you look at these issues, who do they favor? They would favor a challenger.
Right. I mean, because again, we are at 28% crime being the most important thing that people cared about. Quality of life came in second. Homelessness came in at 25. So again, you'd think, hello, that's, we've had 8 years and it's grown, but whatever. 9% immigration, 6% for the economy, and 3% city services. So that was the top issue to people who voted.
So you look at this stuff and you say, okay, you've got most people say we're on the wrong track. Mm-hmm. Most people say the issue set favors a challenger. And then you look at when did people make their decision on who they were going to vote for? Were they kind of up in the air like, right to the last second? No, not even close. So as we take a look at the numbers and when did people make their decisions, half of voters basically said they've known since before September. That is also something for the challenger where you say, yeah, no, I mean, I know where we are. I'm not going to have my mind changed by a flowery ad either way. I'm not doing it, right? 15% in October. So that puts you, well over 60%.
Right.
Okay. And then November, December, right in that time when you have the election and then you go into the runoff, 22%, and then just 6% a few days and 3% on election day. So really the electorate was pretty solid on where they were going. Okay, so this then tells us that, what's this election about? Because if the election is not really about being on the right or wrong track, clearly, because Keller won even though we're on the wrong track, and if this is not really about crime and it's not really about quality of life, what is it about? And we told you this before, that this was our gut, and this turned out to be true. Here's what this was about for most people. What was your vote for? What was it designed for? 59% said my vote was to keep Republicans and MAGA supporters from taking control. Mm-hmm. That's sending a message to Donald Trump.
Who, by the way, doesn't care about who the mayor of Albuquerque is.
He doesn't care. It doesn't affect Trump a bit.
It affects
but it does
all of
affect
us.
you.
Yeah.
It does affect you, but it doesn't matter. And then 47% said my vote was to make change from the current failed city leadership. Okay. So that's where you get a gap of 10, 15 points, 18 points. That's where this stuff starts to happen. Okay. Now, it all doesn't fit in perfectly, but you get the point in all of this, right? And so that's the kind of stuff that you say, okay, that was it. We are so polarized now that it is, I'm on my team, you're on your team, I don't care.
Right.
I don't care what the results are.
I don't
matter.
even care who the guy is that's in the office.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It does not matter. None of it matters. And in fact, these numbers are staggering, what you're about to see.
So this is like, they asked the voters, is there little expectation that a third term for Keller will improve issues in the city among all city voters? So again, these are people that voted, and this is what they say. They said for crime, there's 32% say they think it might get better.
Right. And 68% said it'll get worse or stay about the same.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's staggering. Okay. 2/3 of people say, yeah, we know it's not getting better, and we know it's maybe even get worse.
But we're going to vote the same guy.
We're going to vote the same guy. And quality of life gets even worse.
Yeah, 70% say that your quality of life is going to stay the same or get worse. Yep. And then homelessness.
And then quality of life, 30% say it's going to get better.
Right.
Yep.
Sorry. And then 71% for homelessness. 71% say homelessness will get worse or stay the same. Only 29% think it will get better. And then the economy, 77% say it will get worse or stay about the same. And 23% say that it could get better. But yet it's just mind-blowing because we vote for the same person.
Okay, but here's the thing. You ready for the topper of all toppers? Let's just take, in this poll, they just took out Tim Keller voters and said, do you think it's going to get better? Let's just show only Tim Keller voters. Okay, here they are. Does it get better? Crime. 46% say it's going to get worse or stay the same. 54% say it'll get better. That's nearly even. Okay. Quality of life, 51-48. It'll get better. Half of his own voters say, no, it's not going to get better.
But we're going to vote for this guy anyway.
This is red-blue team. This is hardcore red-blue team. Homelessness, even worse.
Yeah, it's 50-50, right?
Yeah.
50% of Keller's voters say it's going to get worse or stay the same.
Yeah.
And only 50% of his voters think that it might get better.
Yep.
And the economy, 61% thinks it's going to get worse or stay the same.
Yeah.
And then 39% said it might get better. So even his voters don't believe that he's going to do anything, really.
Right.
All in all, when you look at these numbers, you're like, it's not going to get any better. I just need to stay on the same track and still vote for a Democrat.
Yep.
It doesn't even matter what his name is or what he's done or what he hasn't done. He's a Democrat. I'm going to vote for him.
It is the polarization of the electorate that is worse than ever. Is where we are now. Okay. And so the difference between 2024 and right now is that Trump had the advantage of running against Biden. Okay. So therefore people said, oh my gosh, I don't like where we are. Right. And so Trump gathered in some extra voters on that. Well, he shed those voters. He's definitely shed those voters in New Mexico. Okay. And so now those numbers they're just rough right now. And things have to change on the ground. So we get the question all the time, why are there not more people running for governor? Why are you not seeing a bigger number? Well, guess what this poll asked? If you run a Republican and a Democrat for governor, who are you going to vote for in the city of Albuquerque? Okay. 32% said the Republican candidate. 56% said the Democrat.
And only 12% said unsure. And again, we haven't even there's not even names on this.
No.
This is just Republican
It's a
candidate.
generic ballot.
Democrat candidate and unsure. And even if you add up the unsure and the Republican candidate.
Don't even worry about that.
Yeah.
Look at the difference.
Oh, I know.
Look at the difference. Now I'll tell you, Albuquerque is a blue city. So you say, okay, well, Albuquerque is a blue city. Correct. But that's a 24-point gap. If Albuquerque on election day in 2026 for the governor's race is a 24-point gap, the Republican is losing by 15 to 16 points, 10 more than we did. They're going to get boat raced. That 24 points is massive. It's a very large gap. You likely need to be in the single digits to win New Mexico. You don't have to win Albuquerque, but you got to probably be in the 7-8 point range. You got to lose by 7 or 8 points.
Right. And I remember that was the discussion we had.
Absolutely
when
it
you
is.
ran. It's like, and so we're checking the temperature to see, hey, is this gotten worse? Is it about the same? Where are we? It's been 3 years. Where are things looking right now in the city of Albuquerque? Because Albuquerque is very important.
It is, and it's so many people, right? And
Right.
then you add into that Santa Fe, right? We say, oh boy, look out. Las Cruces, oh boy, look out, right? So you see all these things together, and that's why it's going to be an uphill challenge. So a lot has to change between now and then. The economy has to improve, things of that nature. But what you're seeing here, even in Albuquerque, and you're seeing these numbers tip like this and solidify, and basically they're like concrete right now. And because there's no crossover vote. If you're a Democrat, that's who you vote for. If you're a Republican, that's who you vote for. And that's it. And so, again, even much more so even than we ran. I mean, this is really divided. And so it's just one of those things to pay attention to in this race, that things have to change on the ground. The economy has to improve. Things have to start to move in the right direction, or else it's just a really, really hard environment.
Right. And in some of these areas, some of these counties, we do need to get voter registration numbers up for Republicans in places like Albuquerque, in places like Las Cruces and Santa Fe. You got to do what you can to try to bring up those numbers a little bit, just to make it a bit of more of a fair game, a fair shot.
Got to get out the vote is going to be very, very important. There's no question. Voter registration is important. Getting people engaged and feeling like it matters.
Right. That's the biggest thing too. Is like your vote really does matter, and I think that's something that I will continue to say that. People are like, well, people don't believe in voter integrity anymore, election integrity anymore, so therefore they're not voting. That's just basically voting for the other side. It just is. I mean, so it's like wrap your mind around that no change can really happen on voter integrity until we see somebody else in office that's actually going to call on that. Or allow this to happen. Now, obviously, we know that Trump has been calling in saying, hey, listen, I want voter registration rolls. I want to see what things are going on. That's a whole nother story. We'll see if that actually ends up happening. And if it does it happen anytime soon to impact the midterm 26 elections?
Yeah.
My vote is my thinking is it probably won't change things anytime soon. So really, it's about voter registration, showing up to vote, and understanding just the dynamics that we're up against right now. It's not forever, though. That's the thing, too. It's not forever.
No. And I don't think it'll be forever at all. It's just where we are at this snapshot in time and the ground that needs to be made up. Remember, we're talking about 10 months here until the election. It's more than a lifetime in politics. It's 5 lifetimes in politics, okay? So there's a lot that changes. But the reason we bring you this information is because I want you to be the smartest audience that you can be. And when we get a look at this stuff, we want to share it so that you're able to understand where everything is and where it all goes from here. But we'll see how everything shakes out. And I just think you're starting to see, too, and what we're going to point out in this show as we keep going is the numbers you're seeing in Albuquerque and some of the Trump erosion, okay, with how he did in 2024, you're seeing it erode for a year. What will happen in the next year? Well, you're starting to see more people sort of pop their head up and say, wait a minute, 2028 is going to be a fight on the Republican side, and we'll get to details on that.
Okay, well, let's pull out a few of our comments that you guys made on our last show. Thank you so much for writing them. But some of it ties into what we're doing, so I pulled some of them so, Mark and I can have a chance to answer some of these. So this first one came in, and it was like 8 of the 10 poorest and highest crime rates are in red states, Louisiana and Tennessee, with the highest murder rate in the nation. Please clean up your red states before you talk about Albuquerque. Thank you for saying no to Darren. I pulled this one because I'm like, does this person follow any actual news or know anything that's actually going on in crime rates and violence rates? And I just thought this was shocking. It shows you where people are maybe getting their information from different sources.
Well,
I don't really know.
No, his actual numbers aren't necessarily wrong. Who cares? My point in this is, who cares? What you're saying is, yeah, we may be first in violent crime and last in education, but there are other states that are red that suck. This is the problem right now. When you treat politics as sport and you're on your team and somebody else is on their team, you can get terrible results and you just don't care. You just don't care. New Mexico is not a poor state. We're not. We have one of the richest governments in the country per capita for a state. We have a tremendous amount of money. Our argument is low income and middle income working families need to share in that. They need to share in the opportunity that the state of New Mexico has because of our oil and gas industry. If you go look at the amount of revenue for the state, given our number of people, we're doing very well. Our problem is you've got to be able to share that with people. And when you have problems with high crime and you have problems with a poor education system, pointing to another state and say, figure them out first, shows you don't care about the people in your own state and you're not really serious, Lorenzo. I mean, that's the reality. Okay. And so when you treat politics as a sport, you say, my quarterback is better than yours, then this is the kind of email that you get. This shows you where we are. And this is the sort of thing we have to change. And you're never going to change someone's mind like this guy who would write an ignorant email like this, right? You're never going to change his mind. But you want to change the mind of people who say, wait a minute, I know we can do better. I know I can do better for my family. And even if they're not political, they're just realizing that they're not able to get where they want to go. So pointing to other states and saying they're bad too, go fix them first, is inane and ridiculous. It's crazy. It's a crazy response. And so it's the response that someone who doesn't care about results and just cares about partisanship. That's what they say.
Okay. This one came in from...
I actually have a comment on this, if I can make one.
Sure.
I actually just watched a video on this, and the reason a lot of red states have a lot of crime is because it's concentrated in big cities, which are often blue cities. So like Tennessee and Louisiana.
Oh, Memphis.
Yeah, like Memphis is a Democratic-run city with the highest crime rate in the country right now, and then followed is St. Louis, which is also run by Democrats. And then another thing you want to notice is, like,
political.
In major blue states, a lot of the time they'll have lower crime rates because they're not arresting as many people and they're not prosecuting as many cases. So I actually just watched this. It's like super important. These major cities that have a ton of crime are often blue cities in red states. So
no, it's a really good point.
You can say it's a red state, you can say it's Republicans, but it's actually not.
No, very interesting point.
Ava.
Ava makes the hard scrabble political point.
Yeah.
And I went for more of the you're just coming at this from completely the wrong direction, but both are true.
Yeah.
Ava, look at you. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, nice job.
Thanks
for jumping in.
Yeah.
All
You
right.
guys really missed me.
I know. No, this is
I'm
good.
going to bring this show to the top.
Oh, you definitely take us to a different level.
Different level.
Okay.
Different level. Abe. Okay. Question for
Keep your
Mark.
mic open. See how this goes.
Question for Mark and Christy and maybe Ava. Okay. With the statement of it comes down to New Mexico being a blue state, what are the chances for Republican candidates for governor to have a chance at winning against the Democrats next year?
Yeah. Well, we just showed you some numbers that show
know.
that it's going to be an uphill climb. But again, we keep saying this, there's a long way to go before the election. And so you don't know who's going to end up being a really good candidate. You never quite know. And then you never know how that's going to go. And plus, the person who looks like they got the most money and there could be a juggernaut, there are times that have happened throughout political history where those people have crashed and burned. And there are times when that right moment hits you. So the moment means more than the candidate. I will say that. The environment means more than the candidate. It always does. But if you can get the right environment, you can get a candidate who can win. So I would not give up hope in any way, shape, or form. Just realize, though, that whoever's running is working incredibly hard and doing as much as they can, and they're fighting uphill, and you got to help them. The hill's not going to get any. What's that?
Next year?
Next year what?
For 26.
Yes, his question was next year.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. You got to help, though. You got to do everything you can to help. I that's the only thing you can say. So, I'm not going to sit up here and say, no, you can't win. That's crazy. I always hated when people did that. When we ran, you'd always run into people who would be like, oh, no, you can't possibly win. I'm not going to. There was this guy down in Las Cruces who ended up, he was like, you're not going to win. And he was right for the wrong reasons, right? And, he gave all these reasons that were ludicrous and ridiculous. But the point being is that sort of thing is wrong. Like he had no idea why we lost, right? And had no clue. So I think saying to someone you can't possibly win is the wrong thing. I want everyone to understand it's an uphill climb. So get ready and get on board, because the best thing you can do is have a competitive political state, because it keeps everybody honest.
Right. And show up to vote.
Yes,
and help people
absolutely.
out. Like, that's the biggest thing you're going to be able to do at this point. Okay.
But you're right, Ava. 26 is tough. There's no question.
It's going to be a little bit of a tougher climb. Okay. So we talked a lot about insurance and policies changing and just how expensive things are getting, and house insurance, things of that nature. Gerald wrote in, he said, this year my insurance premium for my home in Hobbs cost me better than $8,000. In 2023, we had to replace our roof. We had to replace it again this year due to hail damage. So God only knows what it will be in 2026. It's hard being retired with taxes, insurance on your property going up every year. But with the party we have running New Mexico, what can you expect? And we enjoy your show. So Gerald was kind of just tapping into what we had talked about with a show about the insurance taxes going up for not only healthcare premiums, but personal home taxes, insurance taxes. Insurance premiums.
Home
for your
insurance.
houses. Yes.
Home insurance. Yeah.
Holy cow. Let me see if I can get that together.
No. It's a great point. And this also gets back to the point we've talked about where he, and I don't know exactly, how old he is, but is it Gerald you said? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know exactly how old Gerald is, but let's just assume he's a baby boomer. Okay. And then you go all the way down, all the way to Gen Z. And they can't afford this stuff. Affordability. This is why everyone talks about affordability, because it's hitting everybody. And if we don't find a solution to this, and if we don't take steps to make life more affordable, this sort of thing, the electorate being, mad as a hornet's nest is not going to change.
Right.
Because you have to be able to find a way for people to afford things.
Okay. And final comment came in from Bill. Bill said the water heater incident. Remember, this is when you talked about me arguing with the water heater company.
Until they gave you a new water heater.
Until they gave me a new water heater.
And then we found out.
For 5 hours. I was on the phone with them for 5 hours.
Yeah.
The water heater incident just proves that you, Mark, made a great choice in a wife. This is why I picked this comment, everybody. Okay. God says that men and women should marry and become one in Christ. Absolutely equal in value, but each with different abilities and talents. Right. Wonderful to see. I was also pleading my case that I wanted to be on the insurance boards where they are going to start discussing these premiums for people for healthcare.
Yeah.
Like, put me on that board. I would love to negotiate for that as well.
But it is Bill's absolutely right. That is, you have skills I absolutely do not have, and it's true. And I fully admit that, and it's exactly right. And sometimes men use certain portions of the Bible. And Corinthians could be part of this. Is it 2 Corinthians as part of this? They could be part of this to justify maybe
submitting your husband.
Yes, submitting to your husband.
Yeah, but if you actually understand it, it's just
exactly. But he's absolutely right. Equal in value, and believe me, Bill, you are correct. There are plenty of things, most things she's better at than me. So.
No, we're designed to be helpers for her husband. That's what we are ultimately called to do, is to be a helper for you guys. Yeah. And I try really hard. If it means I'm the one that fights the water heater guy for 5 hours,
it's unreal.
I guess that's my job.
No, your job. I mean,
don't know.
honestly, it is incredible.
But anyway, so some really sad. Tragic news out of Los Angeles with the death of Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle in their home. Allegedly now it's their son that's been arrested, Nick, who's had a history of some drug abuse, some being addicted to drugs, things of that nature. Just really awful that, this all comes down to, at least right now, these are the details we know as of today. And Rob Reiner, obviously known for All in the Family. He's a director of major famous films throughout all the years. So very well known in the Hollywood industry. Yeah. And this is just tragic that it is appearing, at least right now. It's still alleged, but they have arrested his son, who's being held on a $4 million bail. Right. Apparently, what we know as of right now is that there was a fight, apparently, at Conan O'Brien's Christmas party. An argument that went down between Rob Reiner and his son, Nick, at Conan O'Brien's Christmas party the night before. Okay. And it left guests kind of terrified. It left their parents kind of terrified. I guess it was this big, loud back and forth.
It was Rob, his wife, Michelle, and Nick, I think, got into this, and then people witnessed it. I guess.
A lot of people were witnessing kind of this blow up, this fight, got really heated, and it just kind of left. I think Rob Reiner and his wife kind of terrified of what he might do next. Is kind of what it says. It says a little poll that said that the trio reportedly ended up in a very loud argument. Possibly because Nick was back on drugs and refusing yet another go at treatment after at least 17 stints in rehab since age 15. I guess he was just kind of alarming people and stuff. So anyway, just really, really tragic situation going on right now. And then, I guess he's been battling heroin addiction. So they're not really sure. Some of the, we heard earlier, it was reported that friends of Rob Reiner, Larry David and Billy Crystal were at the scene at his house, and just kind of sad situation there. Kind of unfolding.
And the people who witnessed this argument said that basically that it was centered around rehab, and then going to an inpatient rehab versus doing rehab at home. I think this just is one of those things when you have someone, just because you're famous doesn't mean you don't face the things that a lot of other families face with addiction.
Yeah,
and it was just
awful,
horrendous.
It's just horrendous. And, I get it. A lot of people are saying, obviously Rob Reiner was not a Trump fan, right? He was not a fan of the, he was definitely left leaning. And he's pretty vocal about it. Right. But again, I hope that we can all kind of rise up and recognize the fact that this is an awful situation, I don't care what your politics are. This is terrible. And, we all need to come together and be, praying for this family. There is still another son and daughter. Right.
And the daughter actually discovered the whole scene.
Oh, geez, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the daughter did.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. So I do want to show one other thing on this, just because it's amazing. Ava, it's clip 21. and it is Rob Reiner's first 7 movies, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
This is unbelievable. He did This Is Spinal Tap, The Sure Thing, Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, and A Few Good Men.
And, obviously A Few Good Men and When Harry Met Sally are in my top 5.
Oh, Misery
of all
was
time.
incredible.
Yeah.
Princess Bride was hilarious. Stand By Me was a coming-of-age movie that was legendary.
Oh, so was This Is Spinal Tap.
Yes.
People, that was, we
you
watched that
look
in
at
college,
those.
but-
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Now, agreed. He was political and everything else. So what?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Nobody deserves this kind of thing to go down this way.
Very true.
And we also listened to his podcast on, he was digging into JFK.
Yeah.
And that's actually a fascinating podcast. That's the last thing that I listened to that he had his fingerprints
Yep.
on,
Yep.
is that if you're kind of a JFK fan, he did do a pretty interesting deep dive into, were there other people involved in the JFK assassination? So if you haven't checked that out, it's maybe one for the holiday road.
Yeah.
Like when you're driving and you need to kill some time in the,
it's well done. He does it with, I think, Soledad O'Brien.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting, no doubt. Okay, now I want to take a deep dive on something here because they all kind of interconnect. Okay, and we talked about this a little bit with the polling, but there's a new poll out that Newsweek talked about. Okay, and it says the number of Republicans identifying as MAGA is plunging. Okay, I don't know if plunging is the right word, but
I feel like there was a little
strong.
Is a little over strong. Like when you actually read the article.
When you read the article, it's like plunging is a little much.
Is a little much, but
I totally get
still.
it. But the proportion of Republicans who say they identify more as the Make America Great Again movement than the traditional Republican Party has declined, a new poll has shown. The poll found that 50% of Republicans associated with MAGA, while 50% said they were more linked with the Republican Party. In April, MAGA had a 57-43 advantage. Okay, so you saw a 7-point shift. You saw 7% go from MAGA to just standard Republican. Okay, by the way, I don't think this is a bad thing necessarily.
Well, and also I think you need to point out that 7% said they're not necessarily MAGA as strong, but they still relate to the Republican
Party. You're not
Party.
shedding these voters.
Right. So that's the difference. That's why I thought this headline's a little bit misleading because, yes, they may not identify as MAGA. They may just say, I'm a Republican. Like I'm either a Reagan Republican or I'm part of the old Republican Party, whatever.
Right. Or
That's
Trump or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, any of them.
It's just a difference of that. So I thought that was a little
Yeah, and then the last quote.
But it says here, if the MAGA movement becomes less popular, it may also impact who the party chooses to succeed Trump for the 2028 presidential election. That, I think, could be true.
That's going to be fascinating. Okay, this is what you're starting to see now. And again, I don't think this is bad news either way, because I think you start to say, wait a minute, you want a vibrant party where the party fights for the nomination. The last thing you want is a coronation. Right? I mean, it's just, I don't think anybody wants to see that. And I think the Republican side has a lot of good candidates that could be a potential here. And we'll talk about a few of those in just a second. But I want you to listen to Mark Halperin, who has said from the beginning that J.D. Vance is likely going to be the nominee. And I still think if you're putting money on it, right, you got to put your paycheck on it, you put it on J.D. Vance. However, I agree with Halperin on this, that things are starting to shift and it's getting interesting. So here's what Mark Halperin had to say.
As for 28, I have backed way off my belief that the vice president's a lock for the nomination and that the president will endorse him. I still think if the president endorses him, he is a lock, and I still think that's the most likely outcome. But between a lot of donors, very prominent donors in the party saying, we don't want a coronation. We don't want a coronation. We think this should be competitive. Then some people questioning JD's political instincts on a variety of topics in the last few months, where he's done some things that have been controversial, including related to some of these feuds within the party. And then finally, Ted Cruz and others potentially making it clear that they're going to run. They're not waiting to see who Trump endorses. All that makes me think maybe this is up for grabs. And if it is...
Okay. I agree. I think this is going to be up for grabs.
And you don't think it's a shoo-in for Vance?
No, I don't. Now, I think odds are, right, okay, that's fine. I think Marco Rubio is obviously a possibility. Mm-hmm. Obviously, JD. Mm-hmm. I think Josh Hawley, who I'm about to talk about. I think Ted Cruz. I think Glenn Youngkin.
Wow.
I think you've got 5 people there. I think that would all do a tremendous job. Okay? And so I think this is it. I'll tell you, if things stay rocky for the current administration, I think you're going to see an absolute free-for-all. And I don't think it's bad for a party. I think that's one of the big criticisms of Democrats, that this whole we're gonna coronate who we want, and then you end up with Biden and you end up with Kamala. And the party itself didn't get a chance to kind of, hone their candidate through fire. You got to do that. It makes you a better candidate. Yeah. I'm sorry, it always does. So, and I think you're starting to see little things happen on the ground that show you that this thing's going to go up in the air. Ted Cruz is making some noise already, right? He's already doing that. I think he's absolutely going to run.
Interesting.
Okay, I think he will run.
Has he ever run before?
Yes, he ran in 2016.
That's what I thought.
He ran against Trump. Yeah, and he was one of the last guys standing against Trump. Okay. And so another guy who I think's got the possibility to run, and you're seeing a little bit of this, is Josh Hawley. He's a senator from Missouri. And so he now has come out and he's starting to put together some political action groups that really are kind of centered around pro-life issues. So Axios did a story on this and said Trump advisors strafe Hawley over the new anti-abortion group. Okay, and here's kind of an interesting back and forth. Josh Hawley is a true pro-lifer. Okay, and he wants to push for that, and I think it makes a lot of sense from his perspective, right? And if you're looking to appeal to Republican voters, being a strong pro-lifer is a very good place to be. Now, okay, so what about where does Trump lie in all this, and why is Trump frustrated with him? And Axios started to dive into this a little bit, and this is some of what they said.
President Trump's advisors are furious with Senator Josh Hawley for starting an anti-abortion group to spur new action on the issue, which the White House views as a loser for Republicans in next year's midterms. Clearly, Senator Hawley and his political team learned nothing from the 2022 elections when the Supreme Court abortion ruling overturning Roe v. Wade resuscitated the Democrats in the midterms, a close Trump advisor told Axios.
Right, and that's absolutely true. That's the biggest reason that you didn't see a red wave for Republicans. Everybody who knows the data knows that that's what got Republicans in 2022. Mm-hmm. Okay, we saw it personally. However, Trump views the abortion issue as more of one where it's like, look, I don't want it to hurt the party politically. But Josh Hawley looks at this and says, it's not about politics. This is about doing the right thing. And so Hawley's standing up and saying, wait, I am going to have groups get put together that are going to fight and be very, very strong pro-life groups. It's interesting. And what it shows you is that kind of bend in the road. Do you look at something politically, or do you look at it, purely from a personal value standpoint? And that's what Hawley's doing.
Okay, but back me up on this, because I guess that this confuses me that the Supreme Court has already made the ruling and said, hey, this goes back to the states to decide.
Correct.
So how is a president running for office, or potentially thinking of Josh Hawley if he actually runs on this, how does that happen? If the Supreme Court's already ruled on that, does it make a lot of difference, I guess? Yes, your value system clear, right? That's great. But when the Supreme Court's already made a ruling, is he like saying, hey, listen, let's start positioning this to go back to the Supreme Court again for them to potentially to come back and make another ruling?
Right. They didn't break down how they're going to do it. Or will the PAC go through and say, okay, let's tackle individual states and go and fight in individual states?
Interesting.
Or will they do exactly what you're saying? Do they want to push more now for a national referendum again and try to go through Congress to do it? I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure. Okay. But my guess would be that they go state by state, but I don't know.
Okay.
But the point being in all of this, the broader point in all of it is Hawley's saying, okay, wait a minute. I'm going to go my own way here. A, because I have this conviction and I believe it. And then B, because I know that my voters, not only in Missouri, but across the country, will support me on this. It just shows you when you start seeing things cleave off like this, it shows you that things are going to get more interesting as we head toward 28. Because you're going to have more people stand up and say, I'm going to stand up for what I believe in, whatever issue is or whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. So I just think it's just a symptom of this thing breaking up to the point where it's not that the party shatters, but you break into pieces and then you reform as something else in 28. You will. That's what all parties do. They kind of reform into something. And if you completely split and are on opposite sides of the world, well, then you don't win, right?
Yeah.
And so the candidate who wins, part of their job is to meld everyone else back together. But first, you have to have this kind of weird glob that's different shapes and sizes that eventually will be put back into a fastball that you're going to try to throw at the other side.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, another thing that we pulled from Axios, we found kind of interesting. It's just, in general, where are more people moving to and moving out of as far as like the states are concerned? And this isn't even really politically driven.
No.
Right? This is
interesting. I think the huge numbers for like Texas and Florida were a few years ago. So this is post that, right?
Right.
So you saw the big exodus out of California and out of New York and into Florida and into Texas. Well, now things have kind of stabilized a little bit, right? And so you have some states that have done very well in bringing people in, states like Idaho.
I mean, Idaho is bright purple, by the way. So if
Unbelievable.
you're looking at this map, the bright purple
Yep.
is where it has the
Everybody's
most
going.
inbound, right?
Yep.
And then the dark green is where most people are leaving,
Yep.
which you can see is Louisiana right there.
Yeah, you got Louisiana, Arizona, people have left. New Mexico's sort of not growing and not shrinking. New Mexico's just sort of sitting kind of in that middle ground here. You're still seeing California shrink, Oregon shrink. Washington State is still growing. Okay, interestingly enough. Montana is, North Dakota is, and over into the Carolinas, North Carolina growing, South Carolina shrinking a little bit.
Tennessee's
right?
still growing.
Tennessee's still growing up through much of the upper Midwest.
Maine is growing.
Maine is growing. Vermont's even. You're losing people in Pennsylvania, New York, Massachusetts, and Delaware. So just kind of an interesting.
I thought it was interesting. Yeah.
No, it definitely is. Definitely is. So, okay.
All right. So this was kind of you pulled this because it seems, I don't know.
Maury Povich. Maury Povich is what this reminded me of.
Interesting. Kind of like a talk show back in the day to see if we can get like a getcha moment or
Yes.
gotcha moment.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have Barry Weiss on CBS did an interview with Erica Kirk.
And Barry Weiss is she runs CBS News now. She was brought in to be more fair and balanced because, and I think she's largely, I think, is doing some good stuff. This I thought was horrendous though.
Yeah, so she brings in the guy that was asking the question of Charlie Kirk when Charlie Kirk got shot. Okay, so that's kind of the pretense, the little bit of the background on this. We're going to play this clip for you. I think it's very clear that Erica Kirk, I don't know if Erica Kirk knew this guy was going to be
I
there or
don't know if
not.
she did either. I can't tell. And we're not going to listen to her whole response because she seemed to be surprised by it.
Yeah, I don't think that she
definitely
knew.
Yeah, I don't think she knew either. And if she knew, I don't know that she had much time to get her thoughts gathered on what to say. So she answers a little bit. We'll maybe play just a little bit of her answer, but I want you to listen to his question. And the fact that the way Barry Weiss did this was right out of Maury Povich. And just listen to this.
Erica, as you know, the last person that Charlie ever spoke to was a Utah Valley student named Hunter Kozak. He was asking Charlie a question that day when he was shot, and he's here tonight, and he wants to ask you a question.
Hi there. Erica, I want to tell you how much I appreciate your calls for peace and unity, and I'm likewise horrified by the people in my so-called camp who were cheering about Charlie's murder. I believe that they stoke the flames of violence. But even worse is when powerful, influential people on either side of the aisle stoke the flames. When they do it, the flames can become an inferno. And this leads me to Donald Trump, the most powerful and influential person on earth, who has more responsibility than anyone else to put the flames out. Just last month, President Trump called on 6 Democratic lawmakers to be tried for sedition, which he clarified was punishable by death. He then reposted a simple message: hang them. I think that you've been making strides to bring peace to our country, and that turning point has been asking Democrats to decry the individuals who cheer for violence. I have and will continue to decry them. But any good faith effort to stop political violence must hold both parties to the same standard and expectation. So in that spirit, will you condemn the violent rhetoric of Donald Trump, the most powerful and influential person on earth?
I appreciate your question. You know my heart. Why would I ever say, yes, go murder people?
We can stop there. I think that this was in horrendous taste. It was awful. First of all, this kid, by the way, has been kicked out of multiple Turning Point events before he asked that question, by the way. And so him going up there and trying to both sidesism this thing and say, I want you to go after Trump. It's juvenile. It is. I can't believe CBS did it. And it just reeks of this gotcha stuff that you're talking about a widow here. And I understand asking some important questions to her because she has put herself out there. So that's okay. You can ask her some tough questions. But I think having this kid come up there and both sidesism this thing, and I want you to go after Trump. Okay. The problem is, and the reality is, the violence is not coming from Trump supporters, by the way. It's not stoking violence that's leading to Trump supporters killing people on the street. It's not. Now, do we all wish Trump was more artful in the things he says? Yeah, I think we do. But that doesn't mean that that's Erica Kirk's job to stand up there and rip into him. It's not. This kid, I just found it to be incredibly ugly. I thought it was a cheap shot, and I'm surprised Barry Weiss did it.
Yeah, I was surprised too. I think the other thing that was interesting to me is this thing with Trump came out months after the death of her husband. So it's like, this is like, he just gets to come on and ask a brand new question that really had nothing to do with Charlie. So
Yeah.
I'm like, that just seemed off to me. Like, if he wanted to come on and say something, I don't even know. I think it was weird to have the guy on.
I don't think he should. Yeah,
When he's
exactly.
already been allowed to ask his questions of Charlie, and expecting his wife to be the one that comes in and answers the question. I just think, I get it. She's out there doing a book tour now to keep his message alive.
Sure.
She's kept the responsibility of that book, and now she's obviously I think she's CEO of Turning Point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand all of those things, but to come after and just add like, hey, here's another thing that happened with the president that has nothing to do with what Charlie Kirk was even talking about. It's something that this guy was even talking about originally. I don't know. I just felt like it was like, hey, let me just see if I can go stump her really fast.
Well, yeah, and let's get the guy who was talking to your husband when he was shot. Like, what is that? That's like it is like ghoulish. I mean, it's just, what are you doing? And you want to ask her you want to ask her that question, not from him? Okay. Go for it. Yeah, I don't think that's out of bounds. But from him, it's just like, hey, I was talking to your husband when he was shot in the neck. I mean, what is that?
Yeah.
I thought it was terrible.
I thought she, that's why I don't think that she knew about this in advance, because she had a harder time answering just in general.
Yeah.
Like, she was definitely trying to gather her thoughts. She was trying to be very respectful,
Yeah.
which I can appreciate that. But if somebody came up to me and was like trying to put me on the defense, and I was there to basically talk about what you had done in your life and
Right.
what had happened, and you had been taken from me tragically,
Yeah.
it would be very hard for me to keep myself together.
yeah.
I would be much more vocal, I think, than she is. I think I'd be a lot more heated, as you know.
Well,
and
I think she got we didn't play all the answer, but she got more angry as the answer went on, because I think it clicked in her head. She's like, "What is this?
Yeah, that's why
like, this is not okay."
She didn't know. I don't think
she
she
didn't know
knew.
at first, and she was trying to be nice at first, which I think she's probably a very nice person, and then starts to answer. I just found it to be awful.
Yeah,
I just
it was
found it to be
ill-placed.
awful.
It was
Yeah.
ill-placed. Okay.
Yep.
Your favorite thing to talk about? Cars.
Oh, come on.
Besides Cowboys football, it's cars. Just any car, by the way. If you have a question about cars for Mark, write in. He loves to talk about cars. Okay.
So
tell us about this one.
Ford has decided they are done with the Lightning. They're not gonna make the Lightning anymore. That's their EV.
Why don't you explain what the Lightning is?
The Ford is their EV Ford F-150. So
Okay.
it's the F-150 truck that's electric, right? And they were all, obviously, you had the government set things up so that you had those massive incentives, and Ford redid their whole production lines to make a bunch of Ford Lightnings, right? Because the government said, yeah, we're going to continue to, this is what happens when government tells business what to do, right? And then all of a sudden, Trump comes in and says, yeah, we're not going to give all this extra money to these car companies to go make things that people may not want, right? And so people don't want them. They're not selling them, right? And so Ford is going to take a $19.5 billion write-down on what's happened with their electric, and they're going to stop making the Lightning. Now, and not only that, it's just the quote from the CEO of Ford. It's Jim Fairley, and he said, "We evaluated the market. We made the call." He said, "We're following customers to where the market is, not where people thought it was going to be, but where it is today." And I do want to say one thing about that. I do think, within 20 years, I think most of us will be driving electric cars. I do. I think that, because you look at the performance and you look at what they do, and the technology in there is amazing. But we're just not there yet. And the government can't force you to be there yet. But once you do see this organically develop and head in the right direction, I do think we're headed in that direction. I just don't think we're headed in that direction in the next couple of years. And so that's happening with Ford, and they're saying, wait a minute, back it down.
Okay, what's your favorite EV truck though right now? Do you have a favorite EV truck or no? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot because
I've not driven any EV trucks, so I don't know. I think the Tesla self-driving stuff's amazing. I think that's what you're going to be in eventually because of your little eyeballs.
No, I know I can't see, but I'm still not going to.
Yeah,
Didn't you like the Cybertruck?
Yeah, I don't mind the Cybertruck. I did drive the Cybertruck. I thought that was interesting. It's the look is a little too much for me.
Weird.
The look's a little too much.
Huge,
but
too.
I mean, I think I think some of what Chevy does with their EV is cool. I think the Hummer is cool. I think it's amazing when you look at the acceleration on the Hummer and the ability of that car to just go from 0 to 60 in like 3.3 seconds. It's amazing and how big that thing is. So I do think overall, once the battery life improves, you know, your range anxiety goes away and you have enough distance to get where you need to go. And eventually I think our gas stations may turn into charging stations one day where you go in, you'll charge for 5 minutes and you'll be off on your way. I think that's a real possibility.
Meet George Jetson.
Yeah, I mean,
think it's going to be a ways
So I'm
from
not
now.
saying it's not going to happen. I think it will eventually, but you just can't have the government tell you it's going to happen today. Like it was a ludicrous thing to do. Ford's paid the price for it, and they're making a huge write down to get themselves back on track.
Okay, well, we'll see. Well, speaking of football, we talked about Cowboys right off the top, but going into something a bit more happier, right, is your guy, this guy that wins the Heisman Trophy after all. We showed his speech after they won, and he was so pumped up and so excited. And,
Right.
And he was adorable to watch, quite frankly.
Yes. So Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback for University of Indiana, won the Heisman. They are the number 1 seed going into the college football playoff. He was a guy who was not highly recruited out of high school, but ended up being a great player. So he gave his Heisman speech. This is not the whole speech. This is cuts of it. But I thought that this was really put together nicely. And some of the stuff he said, it just made me love the guy even more.
First, I want to thank God for giving me the opportunity to chase a dream that once felt the world away. In 4th grade, I was a new kid on the park football team. Didn't know a single teammate and was 4th on the depth chart. By midseason, I wanted to get out of there. I wanted to quit. My parents said I had to finish what I started. So I learned to embrace my team, and that is when I fell in love with football. But my family's unconditional love and belief kept me going and pushed me forward. These are the people who built me long before football did. Mommy, this is your trophy as much as it is mine. You've always been my biggest fan. You're my light, you're my why, you're my biggest supporter. Your sacrifices, courage, love, those have been my first playbook and the playbook that I'm gonna carry through my side through my entire life. You taught me that toughness doesn't need to be loud. It can be quiet and strong. It's choosing hope. It's believing in yourself when the world doesn't give you much reason to. Together, you and I are rewriting what people think is possible. I want every kid out there who feels overlooked, underestimated to know I was you. I was that kid too. I was in your shoes. The truth is, you don't need the most stars, hype, or rankings. You just need discipline, heart, and people who believe in you. And you need to believe in your own abilities. I hope this moment shows you that chasing your dreams are worth it, no matter how big or impossible they seem. God bless. Go Hoosiers. Thank you guys all.
Oh, he's so sweet.
Yeah.
And it's, it's interesting because I have a lot of friends that have sons that play sports.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're like, well, they might be not the biggest kid on the team or the strongest kid on the team, but they have a lot of heart or whatever. And just, it's got to be an emotional roller coaster for parents, I mean, obviously our kids play, Ella plays volleyball, but, not to this level. Right. And Ava, I was always like on Team Ava for all the acting and stuff. So I think it's very sweet to see when your kid succeeds at something and then he just has this, like, he's just like such a sweet character, like thanking God and then thanking his parents and remembering. And then also like, hey, let me encourage the guy that's maybe you're not the strongest guy on the team right now, or maybe you haven't grown yet. Yep. And hang on, like keep your dream alive and keep going for it because you never know how things are going to turn out. And I just thought it's very interesting.
It's cool. Every time he talks like this, I think it's great. Now, the one thing that I should just mention in all fairness, it's like 6'5" with a rocket arm, so it does help. It helps that it helps when you grow into it. You're like, oh yeah, by the way,
you do probably eventually have to catch up.
Yeah, you have to get there, or
your body has to get there at some point.
But you take the lessons that you learned on that walk. Maybe you take them into something else. Maybe you take them from sports into something else that you can be great at. It doesn't matter. It doesn't just apply to sports. It applies to so many other things where if you take the time to work hard, Ava and I, we talk about this all the time. And we talk about this through her debate team, which is if she takes the time to work hard, given talent helps, but the person who works hardest, you'll get by 75% of people just on hard work alone.
And I also think the biggest lesson that I liked hearing what he said and what we've always kind of said and try to instill in our kids as well is like toughness doesn't have to be loud, right?
Yeah.
Humility is huge. Yeah. And that's what we're called to be when we are Christians. And yes, you can be confident in your arena, Ava. We like your confidence. But also that humility is ultimately what we're called to be when we are followers of Christ. We can be strong, we can be confident, but you don't have to be like egotistical and come out there swinging.
Ava, are you understanding the message we're trying to get through here?
We're not actually talking and then just like let your actions speak for themselves, and everybody can just kind of know how good you are, and you don't have to tell them how good you are. They'll just know that you've got so much talent. You're just brimming with talent. You're just so special.
Sure, but here's the thing: you start bragging about yourself.
I'm getting.
Yeah, I'm just
that's
telling
not quite what we were going for.
I'm just telling you, the second you get cocky, right? Sometimes God, he's like, I'm going to teach you a different lesson.
I'm going to reel you back in.
We're just going to pull you back in a little bit. Anyway, no, I think it's a very sweet story. Hopefully, it gives you guys a little inspiration out there that are watching tonight. We appreciate you guys spending a little bit of time with us.
Yeah. By the way, we are going to have a show on. We'll put out a show Sunday. That'll be our Christmas show. Okay. Our next show will be our show on Sunday.
Should we ask people to send us any questions?
Sure.
A Christmas Q&A.
Christmas
Q&A for Christmas.
Well, it doesn't even have to be about Christmas per se, but I'm just saying, if you have questions for the show, for any of us on the show, for Mark.
I have a question about Christmas. My question about Christmas is...
I didn't mean like that.
I have relatives coming over, and we're having a white elephant. And I'm wondering...
Dear Abby, for those
how many reindeer pull Santa's sleigh?
Yeah, how many? 9. Name them. I can't. Yeah.
Okay, no, I meant... questions about us, our show.
Is Frosty real?
Hopefully you've
Are you on the naughty list? Am I on the naughty list? Okay.
Hopefully you at home, if you're still listening right now, if you have questions, drop us a line. You can send them on an email. You can go to our website, no doubt about it, podcast.com, and you can drop us an email there. Or you can put a comment on YouTube. We'll get them there as well. Make sure you like and subscribe. And if you feel like, end of year giving and you want to donate a podcast for what we're doing, you can make those donations on our website as well. And those go a long ways to keep our message rolling out there for you. So thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you back here on Sunday. Take care and God bless.
You've been listening to the No Doubt About It podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at No Doubt About It Podcast.
No doubt about it.
The No Doubt About It podcast is a Choose Adventure Media production. See you next time on No Doubt About It.
There is no doubt about it.